When was your last I gotta get the heck out of here moment? When my manager told me, sometimes you need to make a choice between your health and your job. To be fair, my current awesome boss told me that, the difference being that he was trying to convince me to take more time off to heal from surgery. It's all in the emphasis, I guess. Was in New Orleans interviewing for a job that required driving a company vehicle 10 hours a day that had valuable specialty equipment. Interview is going great and we get to the part about pay. Guy goes, we can offer you 10 an hour. A big smile came over my face and I leaned over to shake his hand. He thought I was agreeing. I was telling him bye. Popeyes pays around 15 an hour here. Fast forward 3 months. That guy can't figure out why every driver he hires steals the equipment. I pulled into a gas station to fill up my car at 4 AM on the way to work. The station was well lit and actually pretty busy, so I didn't feel unsafe. I pulled up next to a pump, go out, and just when I put the nozzle in I heard someone trying to get my attention. I turned and it was a guy who had been leaning against the wall of the station when I pulled in. There was a van nearby him. He asked if I could call his girlfriend to come pick him up. I called one number, voicemail box full. He gave me a second number, mailbox also full. Then he asked if I had jumper cable and if I could give me a jump. I agreed, thinking the van he was nearby was his vehicle. Then, after I agree, he tells me the story of how he got there. According to him, his car had broken down at another gas station up the street. He said it was closed so he couldn't get any help, so he borrowed a bike from someone and rode it down to this gas station. Then he went into the gas station to leave the bike there. As soon as he started walking away, my brain started racing and pointing out all the things that didn't add up about this story. First, all I could imagine in those voicemail boxes were a bunch of people going, your boyfriend is stuck at the gas station. Then, I thought about how in the heck would he legitimately borrow a bike from someone at a closed gas station in the middle of the night in the middle of winter. At that point, I decided it was time to get the frick out of there. Thankfully, I hadn't pumped any gas yet, so I quickly put it back on the pump, got into my car, and tore out of there. I actually felt a little bad because what if he actually needed help? But then I reminded myself about him borrowing a bike in that situation, how he was trying to get me to a dark, secluded secondary location. This dude was absolutely trying to murder me. Never go to the secondary location. My friend's crazy drunk cousin grabbed a circular saw in attempt to kill me because he thought I said something bad about his aunt. I left. What the heck? I go to school in Poughkeepsie. One time my friends and I were walking along some train tracks by the river on a foggy night. Not smart. We could barely see 5 feet ahead, but we weren't afraid because it was a popular hangout spot. All of a sudden we hear loud barking and a freaking crackhead lunges out of the fog at us, barking like a dog. The fog around him cleared up and we could see more druggies lying under some leaves by the side of the tracks, watching us and laughing. Never ran so fast or came so close to soiling myself in my life. I was visiting London and just got out of sports bar by myself at 3 AM. Drunk as crap, I decide to walk from the bar, near Leicester Square, to my hotel near King's Cross. Despite not knowing exactly where I am or how to get to the hotel, I start walking in a direction and within a minute I'm walking down a rather wide shopping street when I see 2 bald guys coming the other way, both pretty much built brick bad houses, and looking like they want to start crap. They hadn't spotted me yet, but one guy suddenly walks to the side of the street and just flat out punches the steel grate in front of a shop entrance as hard as he can. I pretty much did a straight 180, double timed it back to the bar, and asked the nice bouncers to get me a cab. A cab drops me off in front of the hotel and I go to bed without getting the crap kicked out of me first. Probably a good idea. It's maybe a 40-minute walk or so, but once you're past Fitzrovia THC and by Euston, it gets very quiet at night with not many people around. My husband came home from a business trip early yesterday and failed to mention it to me. I heard someone jiggling the doorknob and sprinted out the back door, not getting murdered in my own house. I like your style. Most people have a who the frick is entering my house mentality, but the no questions asked whelp. Time for me to get the frick out of my house is probably more effective for survival. The guy that I met, college educated, handsome, retro digs in Long Beach car, articulate, funny, packed a picnic for our blind date complete with cloth napkins. Went back to his place and the kitchen was a hoarder's dream. At least 6 full sets of dishes, dirty, sitting in neatly stacked piles everywhere. Pots and pans, the same thing. Hundreds of dollars worth of iron cookware stacked on the floor, rusting. Instead of washing dishes he would buy more. Nope the frick out. I'd lived in the same crap neighborhood for a couple years and was living further into the worst of it at a weekly rent place. In prior years my car had been broken into, the house's garage had been broken into, I had some stuff stolen, I'd heard gunshots, but I'd never seen anything all that bad. At the weekly rental, we heard a dude shot dead in the lot next door. The police came knocking to interview neighbors, and everyone else had lived there longer and refused to open the door in case of potential gang retaliation. It was a gang dispute according to later newspaper reports, but in that area it was usually safe to say anything involving guns was gang related. That was the fricking end of that. I found a place far enough outside the city that rent was still cheap, dealt with the long commute, and enjoyed the country. It was Friday. I was in a room full of 5th graders playing the recorder. I hope you're a music teacher. I was at a marketing recruitment presentation in college and this guy started talking about how we would be able to go to Disneyland and buy Ferraris if we just signed up to his exclusive elite program. We just had to make a small down payment right there in the auditorium. And we shouldn't talk about it with friends or family because haters online had damaged the company's reputation. It says here the IRS has an open investigation on the company. Haters. Edit. Thanks for the silver and gold kind strangers. In the fall I was walking down a trail in the woods during the middle of the day. A raccoon was sitting in the middle of the trail, facing us, sitting on its butt, head kind of lowered, bugs buzzing all around it. It didn't move at all. It just stared at us. We decided to turn around. I don't know what rabies looks like, but that's not how I want to find out. Had to poop real bad in a 600 SQFT apartment that had about 10-11 friends in it. Not nearly enough privacy there. I worked in a factory that made large plastic items via filling molds with powder and sending into a giant industrial oven that heated to 550 degrees Fahrenheit. At the end of the week I was cleaning said oven and my boss, not knowing I was inside, turned it on. At the sound of hydraulic doors closing I dove out of the oven just as they closed and avoided free cremation. I both got the heck out of that oven and that company pretty quick. Did you report it? Obvious OSHA safety violation. No safety interlocks. I gave my ex a ride to his court hearing for hitting my daughter. I pointed out to him inside that there was a sign that said no cell phones and that I would run our phones out to the car and she right back. I felt like my heart was going to break my sternum and I had tunnel vision as I called my sister and told her I needed her and her husband to come with their pickup truck to my house right now because I had a small window to get as much of my daughter's and my possessions out of my house before he was released from court. Just as we were wrapping up I saw him running down the street like Usain Bolt right for me. I yelled for them to drop what they had and get in the truck and go. Just as I close my car door he runs up and tries to smash it open. I fumbled with my keys to get the engine started. He then stands in front of my car blocking my path. I dismissed my burning desire to run him over and threw it in reverse and smashed the gas pedal down the block to the next street. I'd like to say things got better after that, but that was just the beginning of the worst year of my life. Now I'm past all of that and living a better life. Whoa, that takes guts. I hope you're doing better now. Crazy guy on the train, taking a stone out of his mouth and saying he killed a guy with it, but it was self-defense so it's okay right? Yeah, that was peak I gotta get the heck out of here for me. Plus he smelled like puke. That didn't help either. If a dude pulls a stone out of his mouth and says he killed someone with it, you'd better take that at face value. I told this once before, but when I was about 8 years old, I was in the car with my parents. They were arguing, which they did a lot, but being trapped in that metal box with both of them screaming back and forth became too much. We stopped at a red light and I unbuckled my seatbelt and got out of the car and started running. My mom, who was in the passenger seat, ran out after me, and after he pulled over the car my dad did as well. They caught up to me and their attitudes completely changed. They promised they wouldn't fight again, a promise they broke time and time again until their divorce, but they never did it again in the car. Good for little you. I will never understand how two grown adults fail to understand the impact of their shittiness to each other in relation to their children. It's gut-wrenching for a child. It's even worse when they had it done to them as a kid and fail to understand the chain impact. High five, 8-year-old you. Grabbing some Waffle House in a not so good part of town around 2 AM after work. Dude whipped out a gun and was screaming at the chick he was with. Definitely my most gotta get the frick out of here moment. A few years later got a job as a 911 caretaker. Same Waffle House got shot up. So there is that. Happened a few hours ago. Was in the park with my younger brother just playing football. Having nice time. Suddenly I see a man looking over in our direction. However, I can't be too sure because I don't have my glasses and I don't want to scare myself for no reason. He's carrying an orange bag so it's easy to see him. I ignore him and brother and I start walking around randomly, not following the path, backtracking, just not walking logically if that makes sense, kicking the ball to each other. The last time I went to this park on the 1st, a man of the same build ethnicity followed me so I felt myself getting paranoid. This man kept his distance, but for instance we went into the basketball area and he would come to the entrance and lean against the gate just watching us. He could go behind the trees. It was clear he knew his way around this park and follow us, which I wouldn't notice if it wasn't for his bag. I wanted to confront him but I was with my younger brother and didn't want to cause trouble. I wasn't really scared but more angry and frustrated. The man suddenly starts getting braver and walking faster towards us. And so we decide to quickly run home even though we were only out for 15 minutes. I'd give the non-emergency line a call. The cops doing a quick drive walk by might be enough to scare him off. It was years ago, when I was in 4th grade. My parents used to get into fights all the time, especially when my dad was drinking. They'd start yelling and that would turn into actual fist fights. At this time we were living in a small trailer, and the room I shared with all 3 of my siblings was at one end of the trailer, near the back door. So my dad comes home drunk. Mom is pee and starts yelling and it escalates from there. Being in a small trailer everything sounds so close and terrifying. And as the oldest of 4 I felt the need to protect my siblings but I didn't know what to do. After a while my mom starts screaming my name at the top of her lungs and I can still hear my dad screaming too. And I knew that I needed to get myself and my siblings out of there ASAP. I ushered them out of the room, down the hallway, and out the back door and told them to head to our aunt's place, who lived a few trailers down. My mom was still screaming for me and all I knew to do was yell I got them out. Mom were leaving before also going out the back to my aunt's. I don't recall ever being that scared. Cops came. They both went to jail and were both out in a couple days and acted like nothing ever happened. A few years ago I brought the incident up to my mom. I told her that I thought she was screaming at me to get my siblings out of the house and that's why I had. She told me she was screaming my name cause she was scared and wanted help and didn't know who else to call for. I felt so bad cause I didn't help her, but there's not really much I could have done. Dang, no kid should be forced to grow up that fast. You did good. Your siblings are lucky to have you. Probably walking in Gastown, in Vancouver, BC. My mom and I were looking for her sister, missing, homeless. That whole Tez life. A dude in his 30s or so walks up to us, dressed normally, sort of business casual, and we look up and are about to say hi, when he covers his eyes, and starts counting down really slowly and drawn out. Nope. Big ole nope. We backed up and he followed, eyes still covered. He got to 4 or 5 and my mom just grabbed my arm and yanked me away towards people. The downtown east side of Vancouver is something else. A really tight-knit family of homeless, mentally ill, possible drug-using men and women. Men are by choice, but not all. My nana used to live in a sort of hotel there, so I know it well, but that rattled me. You have been visited by the doggo of balance. If you subscribe to Updoot Reddit in the next 12 minutes he will bring balance and structure to your life. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.